Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Earground. This is the first time that I get to do the Earground Diaspora Connection live with a guest, and today I have with me Barbra Breeze. She's going to introduce herself and tell you more about the work that she's doing. But we're going to speak a bit more into the work that she's doing here in Germany and the work that she has done in Zimbabwe and the differences and the experiences that she has had, and some of the things that she could actually share with fellow artists and fellow poets and spoken word artists in Zimbabwe. Barbra, welcome to Earground.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here
That's great.
in the beautiful and idyllic city of Flensburg.
Yes, Flensburg. For those that are seeing you for the first time and hearing from you for the first time, who's Barbra?
Okay. Well, Barbra is a young Zimbabwean woman. I grew up in Zimbabwe. I was born and grew up in Zimbabwe. My family moved to Harare, the main city of Zimbabwe, and from there I went to school, and after school I began to write more, and I joined a writing club where there were other people who had already had more experience in writing. And
that was in school or after school?
That was after school, just when after I finished my A-level, or here they would say Abitur in German.
Yeah.
And then it was called Budding Writers Association of Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And they were more of a basically very mentorship, the mentorship angle of we would meet together with older and more experienced writers, and also had the opportunity to go for workshops. So during these workshops, I was able to hone in on my skill for writing. Mm-hmm. At the same time, they told me about then a book cafe, a very vibrant cultural hub that we also met there in.
This is where we met for the first time. The book cafe.
And it was really like a hotspot for culture in Harare. And one could even say in Zimbabwe, because I feel like we met so many people, not only artists based in Harare, but artists based throughout Zimbabwe, and even international artists from Africa, Europe, Asia, you name it.
They were coming to Bukavu.
Yeah. And it was a space where you would get poetry, performances, hip-hop shows, music concerts, discussions, book launches, and so forth and so on. And there I joined a poetry slam where I would go. That was happening every week, I think. Once a month. Once a Saturday, poetry slam, and also they had other different poetry programs there. And from there,
I remember the Phlegm.
That was for that was really to support women artists, Flame, and they had. This one, the Sisters Open Mic. Yeah. So this was also not only poetry, but a mix of music, dance, you name it. Yeah. And so through these different programs that were there, from these music programs, from these poetry programs, from all of these discussions, it was a space where I was able for myself as an artist to start to write more, to start to perform more. Mm-hmm. And from there, I feel like I got in touch with festivals like Haifa. Yeah. I got in touch with many organizations, Pamberi Trust, which was running the program for Book Cafe, and also Magamba Network, which was also, it actually was in a way started from the Book Cafe with...
and now it runs the biggest urban culture festival in Zimbabwe, Shoko Festival. And they also have Moto Republic, which opened, I think, about 3 years back.
Yeah. And I also began to organize my own poetry and music events, because I felt for myself that I wanted, because from the poetry slam, you would really mainly just read out your poetry. And I enjoyed it, but it was very competitive, and it was too much for me, too much pressure to always think, now I have to write to make an audience happy. And so I wanted to have this event where it was not only about competition, but about you honing in your own skills, your own way of performing, and working with different artists, not only musicians. We once had even a guy who was sketching artists on the stage while we're performing. So it was very it was like, very... a more collaborative platform for spoken word, but also spoken word artists collaborating with other artists. And I think from then on, I started working as well at the book cafe at some point in time, and also working at festivals as well in Zimbabwe. And
which festivals did you work for?
I worked for Haifa. I worked they had a sort of culture, a space for young people and youths.
Yes.
And there me and a group of people organized music,
the
events.
Simba Youth Zone.
Yeah, Simba Youth Zone, yes. And workshops. And for me, because I'd already been so exposed to the book cafe and through my own poetry events, I also had a good network of artists who then, we got a lot of spoken word artists as well, because for me, I felt like I wanted to help in pushing the poetry scene in Zimbabwe, so that it's not only, poets, you just recite on stage, but to say we're dynamic people. As much as I write, it's important, I felt it was important as a spoken word artist to also interact with young people, interact with other people through workshops and through other ways, so that it's like you not only then, because another big problem in Harare then as well, I mean, I didn't say when I started, but I started in 2009.
Okay.
But in this time, it was coming from 2008 in Zimbabwe, where we were facing a very difficult situation.
Yeah, it was a very difficult year.
Yeah, so much stress and hard times. But
so the House of Hunger made you get into poetry, or you had already? You have said you already
were writing before.
Writing.
Yeah, but there was, I think for me with the House of Hunger, it was in this space where, now there's an audience. And so in a way, it exposed me to the idea of reciting my poetry to an audience, which I never saw. When I started writing, I never saw myself as being someone who would recite on stage and tell other people. I thought maybe I want to write a book and whatever, and just keep be in the background.
Yeah.
So the first time I was just like with my paper and my hands were shaking, and it was so fun because I was like, what am I doing? Why am I here? But in that way, with this experience, that's how I realized how important it is to have platforms, because sometimes you don't realize that you can do more than what you're thinking. And when with platforms like the book cafe, with platforms like even my poetry events, and it's like I was able to find even more skills that I never realized I had. Yeah.
And now looking back, I mean, you've talked about the book cafe, and it's not only poets and spoken word artists that are mourning the death of book cafe, but musicians and creatives in a way. They're saying the book cafe represented the heartbeat of Zimbabwean arts and culture scene, and today that space is not there. What would you say that the current generation of artists or creators in Zimbabwe, by not having book cafe, they're missed out, or they're missing out on something very important?
I feel like, in a way, yes, they've missed out on something important, but I feel like one of the important things, what people didn't also realize, or what was important about the book cafe, was not only the venue itself, but was the fact that there was a space where people could meet from so many different art disciplines, artistic disciplines, and come together. And I feel like as much as we might cry so much that book cafe is gone, we have to realize sometimes the power is within yourself. So I feel like now the most important thing now would be to improve how artists can connect in a space, in an area. And even without a place like the book, I mean, the book cafe is an idea, and ideas never die. But it is who is willing to make the idea continue to live. And for me, the most disappointing thing about what happened with the book cafe was that people just then thought it was Paul Bricchio's book cafe, rather than thinking, how can we as artists keep the book cafe alive?
Yes,
how can we fight for that? Because I feel like, if you're 20, 30 artists, you can make a book. You can make a book cafe anyway. It's just about this idea of this not self but we, and I think that is what is important, and even for the new generation, for them to understand that yes, they might have missed out, but they can still recreate this. Because I mean, how big the book cafe was after 2008 and stuff, even though it had been such a tough time, was also the strength and the power of passionate people, passionate artists who were coming there, who were meeting, hey, you're here, let's do this, let's do that. And that is the power, that is the idea of what a book cafe is. The book cafe is the people, the artists, and the connectivity that can then grow, because you, as an artist, you can never triumph. No one can triumph alone. So if you're like thinking I'm an artist, if I get gigs by myself and I just do me, it means that you is not very sustainable to a bigger degree.
That's true.
For a bigger picture, it doesn't sustain what you are passionate about. And that for me is the sad side of the book cafe.
Wow. We're talking there about the art scene in Zimbabwe and of interest. I mean, she was talking more about the book cafe. So would you say the artists in Zimbabwe did not do enough to fight to make sure that book cafe stays alive?
I feel in a way, yes, because like for myself as an artist, it hasn't always been easy. I mean, when I was even at the book cafe or holding this event, you didn't get a lot of money, but I always tried to at least make sure that the artists who I'd invited would get something, and they would also earn something. And I feel like we have very big artists in Zimbabwe, also in Harare, and artists who, with a little bit of support, could have actually maybe saved the space.
And these artists also benefited from the book cafe. A lot of them passed through the book cafe.
But I think it's also like, people always think that, this place is dying, why should I? But for me, what I realized, because I left Zimbabwe also in 2017, sorry.
Yes, yeah.
I came here to Germany, to Munich, to do a social year in culture, because I wanted to move, because it was not possible for me to work there, to have a good life. And then I also decided to work in culture, because I thought if I'm going to move, I would like to also understand the area from where I'm going to call my new home. But so I feel like and that was my own initiative. That was my own initiative for my own life through research. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't get any sponsorship to have a plane ticket. I didn't get someone to give me a plate and say, here you are, everything is on the... I had to work, and I had to find the solution. So for me, I feel like as people, maybe we need to avoid more thinking of problems, but thinking of solutions. Like when you see a problem, then you think, why is that happening? And I feel a lot of people didn't ask themselves, why is Book Cafe failing? Or why are so many cultural institutions in Harare dying? And it's a whole lot of spaces, cultural fund, it's also not necessarily functioning. So it's like all of these things is, as people, we have to make the initiative. We have to ask the questions, why is that happening? Is it a political reason? Is it a financial reason? What are the things that we would need to do to get the space going? And I have to say, in a way, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing nobody. I'm not going to say anything. I feel like the older generation artists have not done a little or not enough to support young artists, to support young artists in developing spaces for them. And I mean, I know Livam Tukuti did it with Pakare Paya, but also Pakare Paya was out of town, so it was for Norton based. But what was Harare was benefiting, Book Cafe was benefiting the Harare base. But when there was no Book Cafe, then there was what? And that is the thing, like I feel like this that's why for me as well as an artist, I always try to do workshops with young people. I always try to find a way
to inspire the next generation.
To inspire the next generation, because the thing is, I know that if I don't do that, maybe everything will end with me, and then I'll be a great artist, but a great artist with no context, with no foundation. And I feel like in a way that's why also the culture industry in Zimbabwe is also failing in that way. Yes, we have so many thousand and one problems, but there are people who have money, there are people who are so rich, but nobody thinks of, let me invest in the future, let me inspire young people. The reason why I left Zimbabwe, I realized as a young person, nobody cares about me. I'm just going to suffer and die here. And that was because the environment itself, it's like the older generation people are letting us as young people down politically, socially, culturally. And that's just, the story, you know. Yeah.
Quite interesting there. And now that you're based in Germany, you've been here since 2017 up to date. How have you found yourself within the cultural space? Has it been easy? Is it easy being here? How has been the response from the audiences and also the cultural sector in terms of your work, your poetry and your spoken word?
I feel like it hasn't been easy because it was very hard for me coming to a different culture, a different language, and also other social constraints. But I was doing my Society Cultural Center. It was called Diaspora, and it's an institution that has a space, an art gallery. It has a print space. It has a studio. And offices as well, where social workers manage another venue. This is more for live performances. And this is a free space, social space, where as an artist, as a young artist, you can say, I want to have a show. Just like maybe Book Cafe, in the way that Book Cafe was working, where you say, is there space? I would like to have my show. I have my concept. This is me. And then you would get to perform at this space. And this was also part of another big a social organization called Kreisjugendring München. And this is also a big youth organization with so many different institutions. But this was for me then this chance to understand the Munich scene, to also understand the social side of culture, and to understand how people are working behind the scenes to support it. And for myself, because also, I'm Zimbabwean, and not so many Zimbabweans there. I'm African, I'm black, I'm an artist. For me in Munich, I've received a lot of support. I've joined also different cultural organizations for young people where we organize ourselves events and perform there. And I'm not having like a big career of 20,000 people or something like that. But for me, I feel like I've done even more different projects that are not only me performing on stage. That has actually helped develop me as an artist. And I feel like even to say that people also support, I have a good support base, this network, this connectivity is then there for me. And I think also from the experience of being in Zimbabwe and understanding also how it was and how we were connected, I understand that it is important to have your network. It's important to know what your audience is and who you want your audience to be and what your message is and who you are as an artist. And all of these things, I have to say, I began to understand it more when I was here, because there was then less pressure on I have to perform because I was already working and earning my money. But it was now to think about who am I as an artist, where am I going, and what am I presenting to the world. So in that way, it has helped me to grow in my perspective of myself, and to grow more ideas of what I would like to do in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm going to take a short break, and then we're back for our last part of the program, where I'm going to be asking her about what she thinks needs to be done to help improve the poetry and spoken word scene in Zimbabwe. And yes, Thank you. Stay tuned. Earground, New Voices Amplified. Ja, ich habe eine Frage. Und was denkst du über die Poetry oder Spoken Word Szene in Deutschland?
Ich kann eigentlich nur über Berlin und München sprechen, weil ich war vor einem Monat in Berlin und ich wohne noch in München. In Berlin ich war so beeindruckt, weil es ist sehr groß und es gibt auch es gibt so viele Poets oder Spoken Word Künstler aus verschiedenen Ländern und es gibt so viele Veranstaltungen, also Spoken Word, auch so unabhängig von großen Einrichtungen, wo andere Leute sie organisieren eigentlich diese Veranstaltung selbst. Und ich denke in Berlin, das ist eigentlich es gibt eine große so Poetry-Szene dort. Und in München nicht so viel, es ist nicht so Poetry-Szene, es gibt schon Poetry Slams, aber sie machen viel zu tun mit Poetry Slams, also Spoken Word oder Spoken Word und Musikveranstaltungen. Ich versuche das zu machen allein. Und die meisten so Poetry Slams sind immer auf Deutsch und ich meinte, es ist nicht so multikulturell, die Szene aus in Berlin, weil in Berlin ich war so auf viele Veranstaltungen und die Leute haben auf Englisch, auf Deutsch, auf ihre Muttersprachen und sowas ihre Gedichte vorgelesen und das war für mich, ich war so beeindruckt und dann war ich in München auf dieser Poetry Slam. Die meisten Leute waren weiße Menschen und alle waren auf Deutsch, ich habe schon auf Englisch, aber dann war ich so, ja schon, aber niemand kann mich verstehen und dann habe ich danach sehr viel über Audience, über Publikum gedacht, weil ich war so, ich möchte nicht nur so einfach auf eine so komische Ort, es ist nicht so komische Veranstaltung, aber es ist nicht so die Richtung, die ich so gerne nehmen möchte. Und für mich, das war so, dann habe ich so viel über Publikum gedacht. Und ich meinte eigentlich, als eine Poet, Spoken Word Artist in Deutschland, die wichtige Sache ist eigentlich etwas zu veröffentlichen. So, also etwas so, dass man kann sagen, ich bin jemand, denn ich habe ein Buch, ich war so in einer Kompilation, was noch, das macht so mehr Markt. Aber es gibt so viele Programme, aber wenn man das im Hand hat, kann man schon so etwas fest oder etwas professionell machen. Aber ich meinte schon, Deutschland ist wahnsinnig groß und es gibt so viele Bundesländer und auch, ich denke, man kann nicht so auf einmal sagen, das ist das und das ist das. Aber von meiner Seite in München schon, es gibt so eine Szene, wo man kann so reingehen und es gibt so ein Publikum, die eigentlich so auch sehr offen zu verschiedenen Sachen sind, aber die meisten es ist so viele Kabarett, so viele es ist eine andere Szene schon, aber wichtig ist eigentlich dann für mich nicht nur in München aufzutreten, aber überall in Deutschland, weil wenn man das mag, man hat eine bessere so Perspektive und eigentlich auch man kann mehr ein gutes Netzwerk gründen. So, ich meinte, in Zimbabwe ein Problem ist Geld. Es gibt kein Geld. So, wenn man hat Leidenschaft, aber kein Geld, es geht nicht so gut. Und hier, ich meinte, man kann auch schon eine Veranstaltung organisieren und auch so keinen Eintritt. Es kann schon so kostenlos sein, aber es gibt auch diese Spendeseite, wo die Leute können selbst dann etwas dazu geben und man kriegt etwas, 20 Euro oder mehr. So, mit Geld ist nicht immer so ein großes Problem. Es ist nur, wie man dann mit ganzer Karriere oder ganze Performances umgeht. Aber etwas so ähnlich.
Ja, gut, danke.
Bitte.
Ja, So yeah, there you have it. She was talking about the differences in the cultural scenes between Zimbabwe and Germany, and how she's finding the cultural scene and the poetry scene in Germany. That in Germany there is more funding, there is more stuff that is happening, but you also find in other cities like Munich, it's predominantly poetry and spoken word in one language, in German, in Deutsch. And then you move to Berlin, where you find it's multicultural. There are a lot of other artists there that are performing their different languages, and she is able to perform in Shona or in English. And there's always something that is happening. As compared to Zimbabwe, there is no money, there is no support for poetry. And here you can even do an event and you ask people to pay what they can, and people will actually be very generous because they appreciate, they support the art. They will put in the good money to support your work. So yeah. So your last word to young Zimbabweans that are interested to get into poetry and spoken word in 30 seconds.
I would like to say that, I'm happy always to know that there are people who love to write, who want to push it. But I also feel like it's also important to not only think, I've started writing, now I'm a poet, now I want to perform. You have to really look at your environment, look at who you are, what are you saying, who are you what is your identity as an artist, and where is your audience. And also to realize that sometimes it's not only about when you think I don't have any money in my hand, I can't do anything. The world right now is very global, and it is just about making an effort to connect with other people who are out there, and to make an effort to research and to find the information you need. Money, it's not, I think what's important is more your brain, the resources that you yourself you can always find resources, but it's about how you go about it. So I just encourage all young artists to think outside of the box, and don't let your situation, even if it's a very difficult environment, push you down. If you know that you're good, if you know that you can get somewhere, you have to also then really fight for yourself. There is no manager who's going to come and say, I'm going to make you rich. You have to be your own manager. You have to be able to think cleverly, think quickly, and come up with solutions. And so I wish you future poets all the best.
Thank you so much. That was Barbra Breeze there talking to us about her experience in poetry and spoken word from the time that she was in Zimbabwe and now that she's based in Germany. Thank you so much for joining the program. Diaspora Connection is a program that is going to be giving focus on Zimbabweans that are doing creative work, be it music, be it dance, poetry, you name it, film, that are based in the diaspora.
Hey yo, what's up everybody? It's your boy Dingo, and right now, right here, you're listening to Earground Radio. New voices amplified, real and passionate.